So, not every single person that's broke has the same problems. Everyone has different things to actually worry about. However, I have noticed that almost every single person out there that's broke has the same exact solution, the same medicine to fix their brokenness, and that's going to be money. If I make more money, I am going to stop being broke. Now, I knew an idiot once that used to say this all the time, and the more money he made, he was still broke. That guy's name was TommyBryson. By the way, I want to introduce myself. I'm TommyBryson, okay? I'm telling you, when you're broke, you usually think that, hey, more money is going to fix everything, but the answer is more money is not going to fix squats. And here's why. People that make a lot of money are equally broke also if they spend more than they actually make. People that make little money, if they spend less than they make, then they're going to be better off, okay? Because it's not about how much money you make, it's about how much money you actually get to keep. Now, I want to dive straight into this video because the whole goal is to show you exactly what is the real problem, how do you fix it, and what are some practical steps to actually get it done. Now, the very first thing, guys, I want to tell you is this. The problem is not your income. It's not your expenses. It's not the economy. It's not luck. The problem is you. That's the truth. And I'm not here to be like super nice in the sense of like not telling you the truth. I think being nice and loving someone is also being honest. The problem with me was when I was broke, it wasn't that I didn't make a lot of money. I made good money. I didn't have them in expenses. And when I had a lot of expenses, the problem weren't the expenses. The problem is always usually going to be just you. So you need to get a hold of that because that makes you responsible. When the problem is external, how do you fix it? If it's not your fault, right? You can't fix it. So when you think you're not going to be stressed because, hey, it's not my fault, you feel better. But at the same time, you feel worse because there's nothing you can do about it. But when the problem is you can fix you, okay? You can fix what you are doing. So it's actually a good thing when you say, the problem is me. Now what am I going to do about it? Now, there's this very simple idea here. What you want to do in order to stop living paycheck to paycheck is increase your margin of safety. Now, a margin of safety isn't that complicated. What it basically means is you want more room to fail. Now, imagine this. If you got paid $1,000 and you spend $1,050, you have no margin of safety. You've exceeded it, okay? Because, hey, if you don't get paid this month, you will not be able to pay anything. But when you have a margin of safety, for example, hey, I make $1,000, I spend $700, but I have some savings. I didn't get paid this month, but I have some money to actually make up for it, okay? That's the idea. Now, number two, guys, it's going to be this. There is power in saying no. No to the things you want and no to the things you absolutely need, but you need to wait to actually get. Here's an idea, okay? There are a lot of things that I basically want, and I've learned to say no. I wanted a fancy car, I said no. I wanted a big house, I said no. All those things, although you might feel like you're limiting yourself by saying no, well, just limit yourself for this stance, like for this moment in the meantime. But when you buy things you can't afford, they end up costing you a lot more than money. They cost you time, they cost you life, they cost you peace. It costs you a lot more than money. For example, I know someone. This is just an example, okay? But let's say I know someone. They want a house, so they can't afford a house. So now they basically go ahead and they buy a multifamily house, okay? I can't afford a house, but I'm gonna buy a multifamily house. I'm gonna sign up for a 30-year mortgage. Now I have tenants to worry about. Now if they don't pay, I can't pay. If I lose my job, I can't pay. If my wife needs to stay home with the kids, I can't pay. So it adds a lot of stress. However, if you just wait a little longer to buy the house you can actually afford to buy on a good mortgage that's 15 years, no more than a third of your monthly income, and you're putting down 10, 20%, you're going to feel pretty good because, hey, if I can't pay this month, I lost my job, I have some money on the side to actually cover to help me be able to actually look for a job in the meantime. But when something you buy it and you can't afford it, it's going to be a problem. It's like using a credit card to buy dumb stuff and using a credit card overall. By the way, I said no to debt and I said no to like getting into credit card debt and all that other stuff, okay? So there's a lot of power in no. Now, number three is You probably spend too much money on things you don't need, non-essentials, and you probably don't believe that. And that's fine. However, I do have a list because I think evidence is extremely important. Now, here's the list, guys. The average American spends every single month about $1,500 more than they should be spending, okay? Now, just imagine, what would you do if you had an extra $1,500 in your pocket every single month? That's $18,000 a year. That's a lot of money if you just invested it. Now, here's the list, okay? People spend $210 in restaurants, $188 on drinks, takeout food, $177, buying lunch, $178, impulse purchases, $100, ride share, $96, personal grooming, $90. By the way, just get your own haircuts at home. Subscriptions, $90, cable, $90, online shopping, $80, gym classes, $75, paid apps, $23, TV, $23, music, $22, coffee, $20, bottled water is going to be $17. By the way, this is my script, by the way, if you guys didn't know. But the idea is $1,500 on things you don't need is a crazy amount of money. Now, if you just invested that money for 5 years at a 10% return, you would have $120,000. If you left that money in there and never touched it again for the next 20 years, you would have a total amount of around $813,000 just by that one thing, okay? So that's the idea. A lot of times you may think, oh, my money is gone because my cost of living is just that. Things are just so expensive these days. But the answer is no. You choose to actually spend the money on the things you actually want to spend money on. There are only 4 necessities in life, my friends, and that's shelter, utilities, groceries, and transportation. Your little high, fast internet speed nonsense, you don't really need it. Your phone bill that's like super talky and super flashy, you don't really need it. There are phone bills out there that cost $6 a month. How do I know that? Because I have one. I use Tello, by the way. It cost me $6. My mom uses I forgot Visible, and she pays around like $25. Okay, there are a lot of ways to cut your bills. There are a lot of ways to stop paying for things you don't need. There's a lot of ways to save money and take a sacrifice in the short term. Like, hey, I might move. I'm not gonna live here anymore. I'm gonna switch this. I'm gonna switch that. When you have a lifestyle of paycheck to paycheck, you have no respect for your finances in a sense, and you have no respect for yourself in a sense because you literally have to keep working nonstop. And if you stop, you're done. And if you spend money on things you don't need, then what you're saying is these things are more important than my time, than my safety, than my family, than myself, than my time with God, and everything else, okay? So it's very important that you learn how to give yourself a margin for failure. So if you're looking through your expenses now and you're wondering, why do I pay for Netflix? Why do I pay for cable? Why do I pay for that? Why am I eating out so much? Why am I not cooking at home? And you're asking yourself all these questions. The answer is, that's good. That's good. And what you really want to do is you want to start cutting things out in a way and have room to actually save. And it's not about, hey, the reason you live paycheck to paycheck is because you need to make more money, so go work more. What's the point of making more money if now you have less time? It doesn't make sense. You can always make more money, but you can't make more time. I don't like that whole strategy, okay? Now, number 4 is, guys, you want to learn that it's okay to be drastic. Sometimes you need to be. Let's say, for example, I just bought a car. Nice car. It's the car of my dreams. I've always wanted this. Now, it turns out I'm paying $500, $700 a month. And you're probably wondering, that's a lot of money. But that's the average, by the way, the average car payment. And I find out that, hey, I don't need this car. It's so expensive. Now, what do? Do you keep the car? The answer is no. You get rid of it. It's drastic, yes. Look around your house. There are things you don't need. It's drastic, sell it, yes. There are bills you don't need. It's drastic, yes. Stop it. There are things you don't need to do, for example, like eating out and everything else. It might be drastic all of a sudden, and you're not going to eat out every single week with your friends, but now you have a goal in mind, right? So it's drastic, yes, but it's worth it. It's okay to be drastic, but whenever you're trying to build a lifestyle per se, you really want to build a lifestyle you can sustain. So it's okay. You'll have shelter, utilities, groceries, transportation. And let's say that's like half your income or like 75% of your income, and you want to spend 10% of your wants. Well, that's okay, or 5% of your wants. Then you have still like 20% to 25% extra money for your savings, because that's super important. So you can get out of debt. You can do a lot better in life in that way, okay? Now, in the end, guys, Here's some practical advice that I actually want to give you. Okay, how do we make this happen, Tommy? The answer is you have to learn how to track every single penny that comes into your wallet and then goes out of your wallet. It's that simple. And you have to have priorities in the sense that I know what my core costs are, I know what I need, and I know what I don't need. And if I have something I don't need, I'm conscious of it that I don't need it. And that's fine too, okay? Having things you don't need is fine, but you have to be conscious of it. Now, having things you don't need and being conscious of it and you can't afford, that's not fine. That's just stupid and mediocre. Hey, I know I don't need this car, but I'm conscious I'm paying for it. Yeah, but you're broke. You can't have it. I'm sorry, okay? That's the idea. So you want to be very self-aware of your needs, your wants, and your expenses and every dollar that comes in. And you also want to have goals. What's your first goal? If I had to do everything over again, I would say my first goal is getting out of debt. Everything except the mortgage. My second goal is saving up for 3 months or 6 months of my cost of living per month. That's an emergency fund. My third goal is I want to start investing like 10 to 20%. My fourth goal is while I'm doing that, I want to save up for a home, to buy a home the right way. I think that's awesome. I think this takes a long time to actually do, but I think you'll be better off. I'd rather be not have as much money and not have to be worried about a bunch of debt and a bunch of problem. Okay, that's my concept. That's the way I see it. Thanks for watching though, and as always, peace.